a Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. Sorry about that, guys. Here, hold on. All right. So, first of all, if you haven't heard, LA was going nuts on Friday and Thursday. We had like the beginnings of it. There were, of course, ICE raids that were going on in LA. If you have not heard about this, it has gotten pretty nuts. And now they're talking about 500 Marines prepared to go in. Now, immediately on X, everybody, like the first couple responses are like, oh, 500 Marines, that's cute. Well, to have Marines deployed inside the US, that is a huge deal. And I hope that people realize this was just one of the big operations that they were doing with ICE, and LA was one of these hubs of all sorts of things going on. I have friends down in LA right now that essentially said that there were all sorts of weird things going on. Now, I don't know what the exact operation they were doing when they were doing it. I heard a lot of comments. I saw a lot of people saying that they were, grabbing a lot of folks that were from Mexico, and that, people assume a lot. But we don't know what kind of ICE operation it was. LA was also the hub of where they found at least two different locations that had Chinese foreign nationals that were there doing all sorts of shady things. Of course, California was where you had that weird lab. And that was one of at least three stories that we covered right now. So you don't know what these operations are. First of all, if you followed our show for a long time, then you've probably known about a lot of these things that happen. Like, take one for example, the amount of people that came in from certain countries in the last 4 years from 18 to 25 years old. If you look at the properties that were bought right by our bases, which country was buying them? Why were they buying them? Basically parallel. You would line up the map with the US map of bases and you go, wait, this is really alarming. Right? So you've got a lot of that going on. You, of course, have the talk of the Golden Dome to defend us against missiles in the next 3 years being finished. And then, of course, you've got this whole, this ICE thing that was going on. Who were they actually trying to get out of there? Well, when they do that in LA streets, LA has already been on fire so many times, even in my lifetime. And people were pissed off. People are really hyped up right now. They see these guys come in like the military. If you haven't seen some of the videos, they came in but when people started, gathering around their trucks and their Humvees, they were essentially dropping flashbangs like they were candy at a parade. If you haven't seen those videos, I'd highly recommend going and watching those, but it has gotten bigger and bigger since then. Now, you also have the response to that. I believe it was San Francisco, but in other places, you have the other side, people that are supporters of our current president, going out in numbers, huge, huge numbers, and basically saying, hey, we support everything you're doing. So you have the perfect mix for a civil conflict to start off in a small localized area, and then some sort of horrible event to happen, and then it to blow way out of control. I hope that doesn't happen, and I'm praying that that doesn't happen. But if you look at how we've been set up over the last 5 years, how we've been mentally trained to hate each other, to, completely divide ourselves, it's pretty nuts when you see something like this, especially in some place iconic like LA, where you've, of course, had riots before. You've had these huge events. Well, those riots have shaped our country. So with something like this, this is a really, really big deal, especially if they're, talking about actually deploying U.S. Marines, inside. They already had, I think, 2,000 National Guard that were set up or going to be set up. But to even go to the next level, or to say that they were going to the next level, and again, half of this could be unconfirmed by tomorrow. But again, if you see what's going on the streets, this is something that is local and regional that, people in New York probably won't care about. People in Idaho probably won't care about. The people that are following online, which is a much smaller percentage than you think. You have 9 out of 10 of your coworkers probably won't see this stuff. You have us being so involved in social media. If you're watching my channel, you're watching all of these stories. You're watching it every day. But if you're somebody who doesn't follow this kind of stuff, it's like they're just blissfully ignorant, right? Meanwhile, there's stuff going on at all times, right? So with this being said, I hope that people do have kind of a prepper mindset, and that doesn't mean go out and sell your house and dig a hole and go, put your head in the sand and bunker up. But it does mean have a basic plan, especially if you're in California. If something goes a lot, worse there, if things go really, really south over the next couple days, all you need is one gentleman getting hurt by a National Guard or a Marine or something happening, getting it on 8 different angles, and then boom, our country is in absolute chaos. I would also like to point out other countries, and we're talking about 3-letter agencies, 4-letter agencies, 6-letter agencies. They use these kind of events to absolutely do all sorts of things intertwined inside of them. You could have somebody who's paid to go up to somebody and do something. You could have somebody take, something flaming and putting it at somebody, a Marine or somebody, and triggering a response. Then that response ends up triggering some sort of huge event. So I hope that people are paying attention to this, and I'm sure that by tomorrow it's going to be big. We talked about this when it was just formed, when they were just starting to throw it. In fact, during our live stream, there were other channels that were actually live there, and people were talking about it in our chat at the very start of it. Everybody was interested by this because they came in like military. They came in on Humvees. They came in full military garb to do these ICE operations. So it's a really, really big deal. And of course, everybody noticed. Everybody came out of their businesses. Everybody got their, everybody got their phones out. Everybody's taking videos. Everybody's marching, chanting, protesting, rioting, whatever it may be. LA, out of all of the places, that's the spot where things can get really, really fiery. You have basically a melting pot of every culture, of every kind of people from every part of the world. So it does kind of give you like this idea of what things will happen. It's almost like if you were the people at the very top, you could totally use a place like LA as some sort of, testing ground. But I hope that's not what is going to happen. I would follow the LA riots, and again, I will be covering them tomorrow night over on our regular show, over on Marfoogle TV, on this channel, and then on Marfoogle News, I'll give you more updates as well, our sister channel. So make sure to tune in. I appreciate all of you guys. Have a good night. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. Good night. I'm glad all of you guys caught this very late show. All right. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out.